I'm Andrea Klim, and you are watching Turn to the Stars. And today is Tuesday, February 17th, 2015. And I'm going to be talking about the Pisces new moon, which actually occurs tomorrow, February 18th. Other topics I'm going to be covering are the new moon that is going to square Saturn in Sagittarius. Also going to be talking about the new moon semi-square to Pluto, and the new moon also in a semi-square to Uranus, and then follow up with the full moon energy of Thursday, March 5th. And I want to add that this is the last moon cycle, and it is a super new moon, meaning that it is 16% closer to the Earth. So it means that the influence or the theme that is coming into your life is super important. This new beginning is more important than usual. It's a theme that will grow, and it may be that it's a dream come true for you, or that there's something that you're wishing for. Pisces is a very mystical energy, and so I wanted to add that this moon cycle, February 18th through March 20th, is the last cycle before we start a whole new phase of change and new development, which is with the total solar eclipse on March 20th. So you might want to think about, that this is a month of finishing things up, resolving any conflicts that are present in your life, finding out where things fit to make way for the new path that's coming with the solar eclipse on March 20th. And it's interesting because that March 20th solar eclipse is a great conductor for taking away any darkness that you've been experiencing or difficulty. It basically is like wiping the slate clean of experiences that you've been having or completing. So it's going to be a time of revelations, changes, a new time, a new path. So that's that solar eclipse that's coming on March 20th. But remember, this is really a time of making those adjustments, February 18th through March 20th. And it's really great because on February 11th, Mercury ended its retrograde, and it really did sort of play some mind games with us, and or the energy did, and it kind of made us feel like we were in the twilight zone a bit. But it's nice to have that planet in a forward movement, and so we can start to incorporate and move forward on those things we've been thinking about, researching, studying. So the theme, let's go ahead and talk about the theme of this new moon that is moving right into the constellation of Pisces. And, one thing I want to add is the movement of planets, or the sun into the constellation of Pisces from Aquarius to Pisces, expands our identity from being members of the human race to realizing our interconnectedness with all forms of life. Pisces is a really brilliantly expansive type of energy. It's interesting because it really does have a duality about it, an adaptability to it. Sort of like, when you look in the ocean or you examine some of the different fish that are in the ocean, some of them can change their color to fit their environment. And Pisces, that sign, is very much like that. And it's adaptable, it's mutable, it's changeable. It is not always transparent, but it can be transparent when there is a sense of peace and calm with the sign. But what gets brought to our mind's eye, what gets brought as a new theme is our awareness that the plants, the animals, the sea creatures, the elements, the planets that surround us here on Earth, everything is connected. That's sort of like the theme that's coming with this new moon. And this energy's already started to enter. The entrance into this the entrance of the sun into the constellation of Pisces brings to life things which are undescribable, untouchable. And I've always said over the last 16, 17 years with my studies of astrology that when I see that the moon is in the constellation of Pisces, slow down and take a look. You might imagine or see and it might help you to understand when you look at people, when the moon is in this sign, it's almost like you can see beyond what's on the surface with this energy. Pisces is a water sign, so there's a sensitivity, a grand sensitivity to Pisces. And when you're looking at people, you may realize that you're seeing them through maybe a different lens, that their appearance appears to be a little different than you're used to seeing them. It may be that you're seeing them how they might have appeared in a different lifetime. So that's highly possible. I've seen that before with through the lens of the Pisces energy. And so I wanted to add that about this energy that's coming up. Our imaginations are really heightened and expanded by this Pisces theme that's coming in. Pisces energy really does inspire us to see through different eyes. Eyes which carry understanding, eyes which carry compassion for all of life. And some astrologers, in researching and preparing for today's show, I noticed that there's many astrologers, there's some astrologers, I should say it. Some are saying that this new moon is actually at 29 degrees and 59 minutes of Aquarius. And some are calling it 0 degrees and 4 minutes in the constellation of Pisces already. It just depends on your calculations. And so I have a chart of this new moon, which I have on the screen right now. And this new moon is actually, I am calling it 0 Pisces in 4 minutes. And the area of this chart that it's in, there's the chart. The area of this chart that this new theme, I highlighted it in blue, the new moon. You can see the sun and the moon together. And the area that it's in is about expression. And there's this theme of recognition or creation or of creativity, imagination, which is very, very creative. And there's this deep sense of understanding. I mean, you may have visions, as I said before, of, or, be able to see beyond certain limitations that you've had in the past through the eyes of this Pisces energy. It is an incredibly creative energy, especially in the chart, the place in the chart that it's in. And if I could put that chart back up on the screen again, I want to really just kind of go into some of the different angles that you're seeing here with this new moon, since it's again a supermoon. It's super important, and due to the sensitivity of this energy, there's this strong sense of wanting to escape from reality. What's real, what is not real. And you can see that there is an abundance of Pisces energy here present. If you were to take and look at that new moon and then look at Neptune, it's also in Pisces. Chiron, the wounded healer, asteroid in Pisces. We also have Venus and we have Mars in Pisces. So it kind of paints this picture, of a lot of energy and that there's a great variety of different things that are at our fingertips. There is an abundance of this Pisces energy, one might say, and it is deeply, deeply seated. And one of the things I realized is that this new moon is actually squaring Saturn in Sagittarius. And you can see that red line that kind of shoots out from the left down to probably about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, where Saturn is. And so you've got a combination of different squares there, which make this new moon very difficult in some ways to look at things realistically, or to look at what the truth is around things. And Pisces can be a quite dramatic emotional sign, so we have to really be aware of how we're expressing ourselves, and are we really able to look at what the truth is behind the different things in our lives? Are we able to accept the truth of what's being said to us? Are we able to look at it? Are we able to contemplate it? And that square gives a sense or a feeling that things are quite overwhelming emotionally for many people right now. And when I was preparing for this show, I came across an old Cherokee story, and it's something that I wanted to share with you, because it kind of has an air of about the story that is very similar to that Saturn square, the new moon in Pisces. And it goes like this, and this comes from my roots or my education in shamanic practices. So an old Cherokee told his grandson, "My son, there is a battle between two wolves inside us all. One is evil. It is anger, jealousy, greed, resentment, inferiority, lies, and ego. The other wolf is good. It is joy, peace, love, hope, humility, kindness, empathy, and truth." The boy thought about what his grandfather said, and he asked him, "Which wolf wins?" The old man quietly replied, "The one you feed." So it's up to us, even faced with looking at the reality of what the truth might be, and us maybe not wanting to feel that or see that or accept that, there is a truth to this story of which do we feed, even when we feel maybe hopeless sometimes. Maybe when we feel like we can't see beyond the what's right in front of us. How do we, what do we feed? Do we feed the wolf that has the anger, the jealousy, the greed, the resentment, or do we feed that wolf that has joy, peace, love, hope, humility? It really is a choice, that free will choice. And I'm not saying that this is an easy angle or an easy theme of development that is sort of surfacing with this new moon. But I do think that if we slow down, a square is indicative that we need to slow down, we need to face some things, and that perhaps there are some shadows that are rising to the surface that are kind of making us like this, bolt in two different directions, because we don't want to face the reality of where we're at in this time. So again, in preparation for today's TV show, I was reading an article in the Mountain Astrologer by Stephanie Austin, who writes articles, and she said that we are really poised at a very crucial threshold right now with this Pisces new moon. And that threshold is evolving from the limitations of separation into the truth of who and what we really are. And she also said that this new reveals that love is what we're born with, fear is what we learn. Saturn, the planet Saturn, often when it's in difficult aspect or it's in a challenging aspect, as it is a growing aspect to this new moon, it can bring forth fear of the unknown. So fear is something that we learn, is what she said. Our life journey is the unlearning of fear and prejudices and the acceptance of love back in our hearts. So basically, this new moon is reminding us of our journey here into this life, where we came from spirit into physical form with an agenda, and that is what our birth charts show us. So this new moon in Pisces, wherever 0 degrees Pisces shows up in your birth chart, is where this theme of new beginnings and completion this month ahead is going to be present for you. And it's important that we remember that we're going to have those feelings that might be overwhelming. We're going to have these feelings that it's time to maybe look deeper into ourselves to see what the truth really is and contemplate some of that. Saturn in Sagittarius is about working with the truth, about working on researching, working at understanding, working at acknowledging, and maybe looking beyond what's right in front of us. And this Pisces new moon is actually the exact timing of the Chinese New Year, which for the Chinese they call this the year of the sheep, and I've spoke about this before on the show, which is traditionally meaning that a year of the sheep is an indication that this year will be a more peaceful year, a more creative period when people know that they need to slow down and simplify their lives. In the year of the sheep, traditionally people will tend to follow their heart's desires. And one of the things I did want to touch upon a little bit further is that the Saturn square Pisces that we're seeing on this new moon is the possibility is that some of the visions that we get, some of the understanding that we achieve during this month, some of the things that we look at or are being faced with that we can either adapt to change and take the easy way, or we can sit still, keep the faith, work at understanding the purpose behind what we're experiencing. And it is possible that visions of truth or some of the shadows of things that have been trapped inside of us arise up. And if you have these type of experiences, it's only because whatever shadows there or whatever memory is surfacing is because of something from the past that you really aren't at peace with. So, and one of the things we see on that new moon, that chart that I showed you earlier, is that Pluto and Uranus are both in a, let me just look at that again here, but I'm pretty sure they're in a semi-square. Yes, they are in a semi-square to this new moon. And this aspect really suggests that resolutions of the pressure associated with the 7th and final square between Pluto and Uranus, which occurs on March 17th, will inspire us to learn how to live the truth that we realize of our interconnectedness and interdependence. So, in essence, this new moon does promise that we will have some obstacles to overcome in the midst of all these changes. And it is actually things that are on the surface that really are important for us to identify so that we can change them, so that we can restructure them. I saw just a couple days ago a movie, and the title of the movie was Lucy, and it was about a chemical substance that gets inside a young woman and expands her cerebral function from 10%, which is the normal human cerebral or functionality, 10%. We only use about 10% of our brain. And during the movie, because of this chemical substance, she's able to use 100% of her brain, of her cerebral function by the end of close to the end of the show. And it shows the journey that she goes on. And when she's able to use the 100% of the function of her brain, she becomes at one with all and is able to be everywhere and in everything. Basically, like many of us would call God. God is in everything, in everyone. And so she was at one with everything. And at the end of the show, she asked the head scientist who she researches and finds to get some help because she doesn't understand, she doesn't know what to do with all that she's seeing, all that she's being shown with all this ability and all this basically power of her brain's functions. And Morgan Freeman is the head scientist. So before she transforms before she transforms, and she goes through this process of transformation throughout the movie, she asks Morgan Freeman what she's to do with all the information that her head was filling up with. And he says, do what we've always done. Pass the information on so that everyone can learn from your experience, which is what we do when we create, when we have, when we get pregnant, when we have children, when we write a book, when we create anything. We are passing on the knowledge or the wisdom of what we have inside. Pisces is very much like that, as long as we can, with this Saturn square, take the time, slow down enough to face the truth of what and who we are. So this new moon, is basically a real theme of expression, of empathy, of there are some things that we're going to need to adapt to. There are some things that we are going to have to learn to say, no, that is not what I would like to have in my life. And it's hard with Pisces because Pisces is a very passive sign, where Saturn in Sagittarius, that square there, is pretty strong at this time, and especially for any of the mutable signs. If you're somebody that's born around the 21st of any month, you are going to be feeling something new, changing, beginning, coming into your life around this time and growing. By the time we get to the full moon, which is on March 5th, and I have a chart to show you of that full moon. There's the full moon at 14 degrees of Virgo and 49 minutes. And where it's at is interesting because what I've been talking about is passing on the knowledge, the wisdom, the information through your own expression, through your own creativity. Do what you can about what you can. And this full moon does bring this full awareness, March 5th. And it's sort of like a very fine-tuned piece of pieces of information that we gather along the way, that we're digesting, that we're learning how things fit, and emotionally, there's going to be lots of reflections and awarenesses in this next 2.5 weeks of where we can fine-tune our lives on a day-to-day basis, whether it be our health, whether it be our work, whether it be how we help each other. But it's going to be something that's very valuable and a great keepsake, the experiences that we have. It'll be special, fine, delicate, all the bits and pieces that we collect along the way during this February 18th through March 20th. This full moon does bring to light perfection of all that we are, a realization that we are human and that we gather best when we gather together. Virgo is a sign of gathering. It's the sign of perfection. It's the sign of fine-tuning. It's a very detailed sign. So all of that I just talked about, all those different areas are going to be fine-tuned, and that is pretty much what this month is about. Completing a process, making necessary adjustments, and also getting to the truth, or being able to accept and contemplate what the truth is, and then most of all, making the necessary adjustments along the way. So I want to say thank you to everyone for your support of Turn to the Stars. I hope to have some new guests in 2015 in different areas of health and well-being, different members of Turn to the Stars group that I'd like to support as they support Turn to the Stars. So again, thank you for your support of Turn to the Stars. I hope you all have a great week, and until next time, Turn to the Stars. You'll find your answers there. Take good care. I'll see you then.